Hello, this is Chala, Dincoy, CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert. We're here today with another edition of my podcast, Naked Marketing, where we get honest about our marketing mistakes. Today, I have my guest, Neal Cyr. Welcome, Neal.
Thank you very much.
Tell us what you do, and this is really fascinating. I love reading about your bio. Tell us what you do and who you help.
All right, so we are Quibble, and what we do is help effectively Airbnb owners. And there's, a big and growing marketplace for, property rental right now for short-term rental. And what we help them do is set the best prices for their property and constantly keep them updated. And, the marketplace is constantly shifting. So we use software and consulting to help them maximize the revenue potential out of the property that they have.
That's amazing. So because the nature of Airbnb, is your service international?
Yeah, there's no border limits really for us. It's, exactly right. Airbnb, VRBO, all of these distribution channels are international. There's no borders, and that's the same for Quibble.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So when did you start this?
In last year, August 2020.
And I know I'm a huge user of Airbnb since day one. And even during the pandemic in Canada, where we're almost just coming out of a lockdown, it's been impossible to get anywhere good within the city or within, the province, because they're booked solid, like literally booked solid where they're allowed. There's places they're not allowed. So what has it been like for your business during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been very interesting. As you said, certain cities are, supply constrained. It's different. Rural areas are different. So in the US, a lot of travel shifted from, urban areas where, a lot of this was, to major cities where people are renting out their apartments, where a lot of that got shut down, a lot of restrictions. So people are like, let's explore. But as you said about international travel, we're not going international, during the pandemic. So people started exploring different kind of drive-to destinations that were a bit outside of these main cities. So we've seen an interesting shift in demand, and then, the cities will come back, the demand will move back in there after things, return to normal. But it caused a lot of trial. So as you said, you're very familiar with the platform and experienced using it. There are some people that are still, first thing they do is look for a hotel.
Yeah.
So it caused, some trial into the space, which is good. So it's growing.
That's amazing. So tell me how you got into this. Do you own some and that's how you started?
Excellent question. No, I actually started doing pricing and revenue management, which is this, science of setting these prices in the airline space. So this is kind of you see airline tickets and they're changing price all the time. And, you're trying to buy at the right time and make, get the best price. So this is something I did in the airline space for about 10 years. I was inside the airlines, and then I ran a pricing and revenue management company in Ireland, in Dublin, for about 3 years, and then moved back in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic and transferred this with some new business partner that, I had known for a while. And this was a space we were both interested in, and just applied the science to this new area.
So, but it's all software, right? Like it's all about AI pulling the best, prices. In the airline, or like I can imagine it's something like a kayak or a hotel.com, right? Is what you used to do to give you the best price and to give you all the vendors that are giving you the best price. But in the case of Airbnb, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes. So the data that we use, as you said, we need a large data set. So we use the property's own data of like how many bookings have they had, and on Mondays, what's our normal demand, on July, what do we normally see, and then we also use market demand. So we'll get data from these different aggregators or OTAs or Airbnb type, and just get a feel for what's going on in the marketplace. So I need to use both of these data sets and kind of build that into the model to get the best price. So yeah, there is a lot of the computers doing a lot of the work So we set up the model, but there's still this need for human intervention, which is, computers, AI, however great it is, it's amazing in, helping you get the work done, but there's things that a computer can't see, like special events or new trends that are not, that are starting to happen, but the computer might not catch them for a little while. So the human kind of tries to steer the machine a bit.
But how do you handle it for new properties? Like they have no previous data.
Excellent question. So we have to use either some sponsorship data. We find a property that's very similar to it and try and use that as like to sponsor what we would use as, data. We get data from the marketplace and we try and find a similar property and, input that. So when we're starting with a new property, it is probably the hardest point in time in that property's life cycle to set the best prices.
What would be different versus using you versus just the Airbnb owner just looking at the other listings in their neighborhood?
Great question. And a lot of, if you just get started, that's a great way to get started. That's definitely very important. The difference, is the amount of data that we can consume and the models that we put this through. So we use a continuous pricing model that was developed in, the airlines from my background, and we've modified it into, a really effective model for the short-term rental space. So to be able to put all that data through a model it's just really hard for a human to be able to do all of that work. And say you have one property, you're generally for sale for a year in advance. So say 365 days. And the model comes up with a unique price point for each night of, every day. And if you were to think you start managing 10 properties, that grows pretty fast to the point where you need some help managing those and you need to rely on, a really good model that can do that for you. But if you don't have, if you aren't ready to use software or a service like us, exactly what you said is a great way to get started. And what we're trying to do is automate a lot of what you just described there is what's going on in the marketplace. How should I respond?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I can see it's great for changes, for tracking changes, because you're not going to be on it. You're not going to be doing that data survey every single day, every single week. But I guess it's presupposing that there is wild swings that you're missing out on or that are pricing you out of the market on a fairly frequent basis. Is that accurate? I mean, do prices really change that much?
Good question. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't change that much. There shouldn't be these wild swings. But if you think about, and we're in June right now, so think of, next summer is now starting to be available for sale. There might be a slow trend upward in price over the next 3 months. But if that's so far out into the future that you might not get a chance to look at it. So the computer is going to be looking for these trends all the time, or there might be, say, a concert in the neighborhood that your property's in, and we start, a demand spike, as you said, that might actually occur. And to capture those changes is can be difficult to do if you're constantly trying to review the property. So we provide software, but we also provide a consultancy service, because a lot of these Airbnb managers, they're just property managers. They don't have to be on Airbnb. They are doing a lot of different things and a lot of work. So if they want to offload this work, they can give it to us.
Because it's so key for sure. No, that is great that you're aggregating all the, the other events that are happening and trending and seasonality, all of that. It's particular. So that brings me to, because I'm a marketing girl, brings me to targeting. Obviously your target is the multiple users, right? The multiple managers, and there's probably a number of companies who are just Airbnb type of property managers. Is that your primary target?
Yes. So generally the single owner, we could help, but it's really as, your portfolio starts to grow, it really becomes something that is, makes a lot of sense to partner with someone that can help. So exactly, that's our target.
So you started this fairly recently. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so tell us about, the naked marketing portion, which is where you made your marketing mistake.
Yeah. So we, to the point you were making there, you have to identify, you know, these targets. And for us, you know, doing that pre-work and trying to find those targets, there's a lot of lead time that you need to give to that amount of the work, is the preparation. So, you know, I think that was the slowest learning for us, which is really critical, because as you know, we need to find the right targets. And for us, although we are international, a lot of our target was in the US. So we needed to be, you know, be involved in these Facebook groups, be, you know, active on LinkedIn, and build this kind of list of potentials. And I think for us, you know, the mistake, which we are still building this, is just the amount of time we forecasted it was going to take to, you know, properly set this up, and get it up and running.
So talk to me about, because I am a niching coach. So I help people. When I used to work at Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay, every year we launched 7 new products, and that was my job to figure out who's the target for this new product, so it's not going to cannibalize the other ones on the shelf. And so I took that process and I made it into a small business process that takes 2 to 4 weeks. How did you figure out who your target was?
Great question. And we had, I mean, we could describe to you, you know, this is who we're looking for. It was the process of finding them. So we experimented with, you know, telemarketing outreach, you know, phone calls. We experimented with, you know, joining Facebook groups and finding the people. We experimented with, you know, a lot of search on LinkedIn and finding property managers. So we experimented with, you know, trying to go through all these different channels. And, you know, I think Facebook was a very effective tool in terms of finding the right people. You know, LinkedIn, this is a community. Property management is a little bit more old school in terms of their activity on LinkedIn. Like a lot of what we were searching for, it wasn't on LinkedIn. So, you know, in the airlines, from my background, everyone was, you know, pretty engaged with LinkedIn, but it was a different market. So we kind of had to go through that learning process.
Mm. So I'm hearing that there was a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see
Uh-huh.
what was going to stick, and that makes me think that's why it took so long.
You're very right.
So I mean, and that's great. This is great for my, audience, my viewers, because all I talk about all day, every day is to find the right niche. And in fact, I call it the super niche. And what you're doing is so incredibly specialized that the person who's going to buy it and who needs it has to be like on fire for this. And as we just talked about, it's not every Airbnb owner by far, but it's a very specific kind that has a very expensive problem because they're losing money every day by pricing it wrong. So, and that would be the marketing message. So that's great. Now, what are your plans for the future? Expansion or maintenance? How are you planning your next year?
Yeah, excellent question. So we are constantly developing the software to make it price better. So we're always looking for new data inputs and new ways to, you know, as you said, it seems like, the user might be able to make a lot of these changes. And we're trying to make, even if it's a very tiny change, if we can get the program to price a little bit better
Mhm.
over time, 365 days that, into the future at a time, if we can make just a little bit of an improvement over time, we're constantly looking for that. We also want to expand our reach. So as you said, it's international. How do we start marketing to the international community? A lot of our focus has been in the US because that's where we are, and it's easier, but there's no reason for that. So it's a lot of it now is how do we take what we've got and multiply it out? So we're, very, very excited about the future.
That is great. That's really wonderful. What marketing advice do you have? I mean, you've had several businesses now. What do you have as a parting advice to our audience?
Yeah, I would echo what you said about, setting the plan and really get yourself prepped for how you want to market, and, put together a calendar of what's going to happen, and set some metrics. Like, we're big on metrics and managing towards metrics, and yeah, set up a really solid plan. And especially when you're young, be ready to pivot or, go towards what's working.
Hmm. Thank you. How can people reach you, Neal?
We are at quibblerm.com, and my email is Neal Cyr at quibblerm.com. So if you have any questions, please reach out.
You have an Airbnb. Please,
But yeah, if
if you
you
have an Airbnb, please reach out.
love to work with you, yeah.
Thank you so much, Neal. Thanks for
Thanks,
being here.
Chala.